Erin Popovich. Of course, that's just as I say your name, it reminds me of the confusion over this pronunciation of your name because you have the same last name spelling wise as the great Bill Popovich. And when you went into the Hall of Fame, when I told you when we had the ceremony to announce the Hall of Fame inductees, Ray J. Johnson came over to me, acted like I was the dumbest guy in town. He goes, "Foles, it's Popovich," and I was saying it's Popovich. Which where does that pronunciation come from?
So my great grandfather was in the Odessa, what was formerly a USSR. Now I guess it's part of more Russia or Ukraine. So the Eastern European slash Russian area.
Yeah, and that's where it came from. Because I don't know anything about that name other than Milt Popovich played in the NFL, and there's some of his family members around, but I don't know the origins of any of that. But when you guys you probably had to correct people for every pronunciation from the time you went into kindergarten on, I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's several Popoviches in Butte growing up. So you know what? To each their own. And thankfully, my grandmother wasn't here going, "It's Popovich." So
How many
all good.
how many times a week do you have to correct somebody in your pronunciation, or do you just let it slide?
It depends.
Yeah,
If I know I'm going to be interacting a lot, then it's Popovich. If it's a one-off, then
let it go,
all
huh?
right.
That's so now you're in Indiana.
I am. I moved
What are
in
you doing there?
January. So I work for the Purdue for Life Foundation, which is their development arm of the university, along with their alumni association and all of their giving societies or giving clubs. So started in January, and I do miss the mountains very much so, but it was a fresh new opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
Yeah. So Purdue, where exactly in Indiana is Purdue?
So Purdue is in West Lafayette, Indiana. It's
Okay.
about an hour northwest of Indianapolis
Uh,
and about a little over 2 hours south of Chicago.
so there's a lot of pretty cool places you can go to there.
Yeah, it's great. Chicago is about 2 hours away, Indianapolis,
Yeah.
Nashville, lots of different opportunities close
Yeah.
by.
Have you had time to do any of that though? New job, you don't always get. You can't just drop everything and take a week off and go somewhere every when you're in your first year of a new job always.
Yeah, the hard part is when you start a new job that you don't have all that vacation racked up. But I did get up to Chicago for a long weekend. I did go
Nice.
down. I haven't made it to Nashville, but I went down to Lake Cumberland in Tennessee or Kentucky. So I've been making my way around, but
Nice.
still eager to get out more.
Do you have any family out in that area, or is it just you just kind of moved out on your own, decided to change things up?
Yep, just decided that it was too good of an opportunity, and I do have some East Coast family, but haven't. Maybe around Thanksgiving I'll get to see that side of the fam.
Yeah, so that's quite the change to move from Colorado, the mountains in Colorado. You're used to Montana, Colorado, and then you're in the middle of where I assume it's fairly flat out there. I'm not sure though. Never really been there.
It is. It is flat. The elevation is minimal. The humidity in the summer is maximal. That was quite the adjustment to get used to. I've been in Montana or Colorado most majority of my life, where it's pretty dry climates. So the humidity this summer definitely kicked my backside.
Yeah, and you're already on the Purdue basketball bandwagon. That didn't take long. I mean, it's kind of a fun team to follow anyway. I've been following them for years.
Yeah, no, it's great to see. I was able to go to a few games last season, which was fun. And Mackey Arena is just incredible to watch games in. And so we're ranked number one going into the season. We had a great recruiting year, and so
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see how the boys do.
And that state is just crazy about basketball. They just love hoops all around out there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so yeah, it's of course it's a great sport anyway. Basketball is fun to watch, but it seems like the season takes forever anymore though, you know. That's the NAIA season I think is 13 months long every year, but the NCAA one doesn't drag on quite as much, but yeah, I just there's nothing beats March Madness and all that stuff, especially if you're going to be living there. That ought to be pretty fun.
Yeah, and March Madness or the Final Four is going to be in Indianapolis next March or April, so
Yeah.
that'll be bringing a lot of excitement to the area as well.
So when you moved out there, did you have to rent a big old truck just for your medals that you won at the Paralympic Games all those years? Or did they stay with you? Did your
No,
mom?
I've got only one gold of each games here with me. The rest are still with my folks. So one of these days I'll get them all out
Yeah,
here.
I figured your mom probably would want to hang on to some of them. I know she's pretty dang proud of those.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you ever take all 19 medals and put them on at the same time?
I did. I
Yeah.
did. It was pretty heavy.
Yeah, I imagine you almost fall right over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. 'Cause those are that's yeah, that's just amazing. You think about that 19 medals that you won over the years.
Yeah.
What an incredible accomplishment that was.
Yeah, it was a fun part of my life.
Yeah. And the swimming, it was just something so natural. I remember when I wrote the story about you swimming for the Montana Standard back, I think it was in 1998, right
Yeah.
around there. I was just brand new at the Standard. And you swimming was like the most easy thing I've ever seen in my life. There was fish that don't look as comfortable in the water as you did when at that age, and you were just going back and forth so easy. And I was just really impressed by that. And I found out later that you hadn't really been swimming all that long at that point.
No, I had had a perforated eardrum when I was a kid, and so I hadn't had it repaired until what was it, fall of '97. So I couldn't be in the water very much. And so once that was finally repaired, it was okay, let's check out this swimming scene. And it just clicked, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes things just click, and I was lucky that I'd had basic swim lessons through Ramsey and grew up through that system. So I
Yeah.
knew freestyle, I knew the front crawl, I knew doggy paddle, but in terms of actual strokes and mechanics and all of that stuff, that was really my first foray into learning more about that. And it just, yeah, it definitely took time, definitely took effort and hard work, but
Yeah.
it just clicked as well.
Yeah, you made it look easy, and then of course you got better and better every year, and had an incredible high school career, great college career, then Paralympic career, which obviously 19 medals. What did you go to three different games? Is that what it was?
Yeah, three games, Sydney, Athens, and Beijing.
In Beijing. What was your favorite?
I get asked that all the time, and it's really hard to say.
Yeah,
Sydney was my first game, so it always will resonate with me as I was never, on a stage like that ever before. But then each game's, had its uniqueness of Sydney, was the only games I got to walk into at the opening ceremonies, because I competed the next day for Athens and Beijing. So it was way too much,
yeah,
time on your feet the night before a big competition. And then, Athens being in the birthplace of the modern day Olympics, as well as just all the history there. And then, Beijing, they just knocked it out of the park. The facilities were incredible, the culture, and just really living in the games. It
yeah,
was, each had their own moments.
yeah. And that's got to be pretty cool because you're standing there on the blocks, and to your left and to your right, some of the best swimmers in the world,
Yeah.
and I imagine the crowds were pretty good.
Yeah, the crowds were great.
Yeah, because that'd be a lot of fun. Because every swimming meet I've been at, the crowd has been good at because that's, at the Butte YMCA is the only place I've ever been to a swimming meet. And how people, you've been there, you've seen where they crowd around, they're screaming. I'm trying
Yep.
to take pictures. I'm getting soaked with water, getting pushed out of the way by moms, but it's always just so much screaming and you can't even hear. But I just imagine at a big event like that with the big crowd, or big arena that you can all fit all those people in there. That just got to be insane and a lot of fun to compete in.
Yeah, you really can't replicate it either. I mean, you equate it to, the big crowds of basketball or, something and walking out into that if you don't get that every day. And so I remember walking out and just go, kind of like,
Yeah,
okay. But at the same time, it brings an energy and, thankfully I was able to use that to fuel me as opposed to as a negative. And I used it to motivate and excite and get my body ready and dive into the water and go, as opposed to letting, that it's a lot of pressure. I'm not, trying to say that it
Yeah.
wasn't, but being able to channel that into, the swim was really powerful for me.
Yeah. What was your best, all the strokes that you had? What did you like to swim the best?
I think my favorite was always the butterfly.
Yeah.
My favorite event was the 200 IM, and that was all four strokes. I hate backstroke. I still to this day, but for whatever reason, I just loved that event.
See, backstroke's my favorite because that's the easiest to breathe in. But I don't think I'm actually doing a real backstroke. I'm just laying on my back and moving my arms because I told you, I think I tried swimming a little bit when I was playing handball. My shoulders were hurting. I wanted to swim, strengthen my shoulders, and I was swimming one day at the Y, and I was the only guy there. And I got in there as a lifeguard sitting over on the one side, way away from me, and I'm going up and down. And I noticed when I got back, the lifeguard came over and was sitting right above me because he apparently thought I was going to drown because I'm not very, I don't move very fast in the water. So I have I have a real appreciation of the people that can swim like that because I could never, I always felt like I was going to drown, even if it was like I could stand up, I could just stop and stand up. I
Yeah.
still felt like I was going to drown, and that's
Yeah.
probably toughest. The breathing was the toughest part. I don't know if that's for a lot of athletes that are swimmers that do that or not, but that almost killed me. So was
Yeah,
that
I
tough?
mean, it's like anything. You get the
Yeah,
hang of it. You swim enough laps, and you start to get the hang of it a little bit more, and how to maximize technique, and
yeah,
all of those things. But I get it. It's me trying to do pretty much any other sport. I completely understand.
yeah.
Like shooting a basketball, not my foray.
Even now that you're out in Indiana, you got to start shooting out there,
I know. I'll stick to the kiddie hoops, and
right?
go there.
Well, you grew up Ramsey Ram. I didn't realize that you were a Ram. Well, if I did, I forgot. So
Yep.
did you go out there
Ramsey.
through the eighth grade, or did you go to
I
Central?
moved into Central my eighth grade year.
Yeah, and that's when you were
But
started competing more on
yeah.
the tarpon swim
Yep.
team then.
Yep.
And then was it a Butte High / Butte Central swim team when you were there for a little bit?
Yeah. So I think there was myself or maybe one or two others that convinced Beat Central that we wanted to be a swim team. And after I think the first practice where we were separate, we kind of said, "Hey, can we just all merge? Can we merge over with Butte High? Because it doesn't make sense
Yeah.
to do it." And so thankfully, that worked out.
Yeah, was
So
Sarah
now I hear
coaching?
that Butte Central has a swim team this year,
They
and
did. They had a
um,
swim team for the first time last year in years, and they actually had 6, 7 kids, maybe 8. It was pretty good.
that's awesome. That's really
Yeah.
exciting to see.
Yeah, and that may be the first actual swim team they've had since you were swimming for Butte Central.
Yeah, I bet because I have not heard of a Butte Central swimmer, but
Yeah. Yeah.
that's exciting. Really exciting.
I can't think of her first name now. I know it, but Josh Peck's wife she's married Josh Peck. She's the head coach, and she had some kids on the team, and
Oh, cool.
they did a great job, and they worked closely with the Butte High team as well with Lynn Schrader,
Okay.
because Lynn is just she's a tremendous person, but she's a great swim coach and she loves swimming, and she has no problem getting over that barrier to help out kids wearing a different color than her team. That purple maroon thing never got to her at all. So it's pretty cool
Oh,
to see.
good. Good, good.
Yeah. But was Sarah Palmer, was she the teacher, the coach when you were there?
That name's familiar, so maybe
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah, she's Sarah Novak now, but I remember she coached for a while, but I can't remember the years. And
Okay.
she had a vest that had the Butte High logo and the Central logo.
Okay.
And of course we found reasons to tease her about that, back in our younger days. But
Excellent.
yeah, and you guys swam at Tech a lot back then, didn't you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That was our main go-to because the Y wasn't built until 2006, I
Yeah.
believe.
Did you ever swim in
Um,
that at the Y in Butte?
I've swum there. I didn't
Not in a competition though, huh?
like not on a team or anything like that because that was after I'd moved
Yeah.
away from Butte.
Yeah. So I was just trying to think about the years there, what it would have been when you left. But yeah, so it's been a while, yeah, because the Y was Yeah, about 2005. My oldest daughter was a baby.
2005 or 2006, I
Yeah,
think,
it's right
somewhere
around
in
20
there.
years old now, something like that. Which
That's crazy.
isn't that something? But do you swim today? Did you ever get in and swim?
Every once in a while I'll get back in the swing of it, and then I've come to enjoy being dry and not being wet all the time, or having the
Yeah.
wet, messy bun on the head and stuff. But I've gotten I've gotten into CrossFit. I get into just being outside and doing anything I can to stay active and such. So. I always joke that the only swimming I like is with a floaty around my waist, a cool beverage in my hand, and the sunshine out. And that's
Yeah.
the kind of swimming I like these days.
Yeah, you did enough that you don't have to race anybody anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah, those days of staring at a black line are over, although I never say they're officially over because, you never
Yeah.
know what's ahead of you, right?
Yeah. And you went and you swam at Colorado, was it Colorado State?
Yes, Colorado State.
Colorado State. You swam college there, and I know that it lists you like when I was reading like your Hall of Fame stuff from when you went into the Olympic Hall of Fame. It mentioned that you swam with get competed against women who are able-bodied, I think was the word it said.
Yep.
And I always, because you have obviously a disability, a
Yes.
physical disability, but I'd never look at you and think, man, that girl's disabled. I just think that you're just not playing center on the basketball team, because I believe, and that's
Fair.
where I learned the term, because you were born dwarf. Is that the term they use, right?
Yeah, dwarfism or achondroplasia is the
Yeah,
medical term.
yeah. I couldn't pronounce that word without a little practice. But yeah, but I mean, basically, you were always healthy, but you underwent a lot of surgeries, did you, and stuff too, as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I'm very thankful for the health that I've had my entire life because I know that not all people with achondroplasia or short stature or dwarfism are as lucky as I am. So I was very fortunate, but through over the years had to have several different surgeries. The biggest one being when I had my legs straightened because they were bow-legged, which is a common characteristic of
Yeah,
dwarfism. And so it just became too much pain to just walking short distances was becoming increasingly painful. So we looked into what that surgery would look like. And, I had a great orthopedist, Dr. DeJoven, in Butte growing up.
the
And
best. Yeah,
he partnered and we worked with a doctor out in LA who did more regular surgeries like that. And so partnered with that one, Dr. Isaacson down at Cedars-Sinai to get that done. And then came back to Butte and did all the rehab and such there and a couple other surgeries. But that was probably the biggest one where it really took me off for, I think it was like 6 weeks in a wheelchair because I did both legs
wow.
at the same time. And, just simple things of relearning to walk and relearning how to use all the muscles that, we take for granted. But overall, fortunately, have had a lot of good health, knock on,
Yeah.
now it's funny, you sleep wrong and you're out for
Oh,
a week.
yeah. Yeah, I
Um,
thought I was gonna have to have surgery over my back, but I slept wrong last week. For 3 days, my back, shoulder, and neck killed me. But
yeah, but no, so I've been fortunate that I've had a lot of good health and, some surgeries over the years and a couple of repairs on the knee and minor stuff after the big leg surgery, but
yeah,
overall just some wear and tear too. That's
yeah,
part of life.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, your shoulders probably you get strength in your shoulders, and when you're swimming, I suppose you get the good muscles, and they're strong. But probably a lot of rotator cuff damage can be done when you're swimming like
Easily,
that. Yeah,
very
because
easily. Yeah, so definitely important to, well, I know swimming is the main objective, doing weight training to keep everything balanced and doing a lot of dry land training, all of those things to really just help all of the smaller muscles that are working equally as hard to keep the body moving, intact as well.
yeah. So how was it growing up with because you're the only of course that's all the thing I can see is that you're not as tall as the average person. How tall are
Yeah.
you?
I'm, what is it? Just under 4'5".
Yeah. So that's the only thing that because I would never say, oh, there's anything wrong with that girl. Because yeah, of course, as I say, the first time I met you, I saw you swimming better than anybody I've ever seen swim in my life. So I thought you were, I looked at you more as having a superpower than I did having any kind of disabilities. But was it tough growing up with kids? Because you know how kids can just be miserable. They used to tease me at Kennedy when I was an adult driving by or jogging by, the kids would scream at me, "Run, Forrest, run!" So, but I imagine, was it tough with the kids when you were younger? Or did you have it pretty good out in Ramsey?
Kids are kids, and
Yeah,
I think when they're curious, they ask questions which aren't always intended as the way they come out. At the same time, it's how we react to what kids are asking and questioning and saying. So, were there tough times? Absolutely.
yeah,
I'm not naive to that, and not every day was roses and sunshine. And we did have some issues at various times where kids were pretty tough.
yeah,
At the same time, we tried to educate as well and have conversations, especially with my classmates, of why I'm different, what that means, and why I may have to have a stool under my feet at the desk, or might need help reaching for things and such. And so to try and normalize it, which I think helped because then it helped answer questions ahead of
yeah,
time, and so that they could say, "Oh, okay." And fortunately, once you get to know people, it's usually okay, cool. You forget, and you just don't see it as a disability, like you said.
yeah,
And so I think that's one of the greatest things in how are we educating kids to have the knowledge, but also to ask the questions, and it's okay to ask questions, right? Because if
yeah,
they're curious and they want to know, then it'll promote more questions of, okay, well, why is that way? Or how did it become this way? And if we open the door for that, then we see so much more, curiosity and respect for things as opposed to saying, oh, don't ask that. Don't, the worst thing
yeah,
that a parent can do is say, oh, don't do that. No, let them ask. It's
yeah,
okay. If they're going to be nasty, guess what? We can deal with that too. But, being a kid, it's tough. And thankfully, I had great parents and a great family, but also, good teachers and such that helped, understand and helped, promote conversation as opposed to saying anything different, but also just treated me like a normal kid, right?
yeah.
And that I think is part of why I'm blessed to this day of just having those people in my corner from day one.
Yeah, and your parents are just amazing. I remember talking to your mom on the phone for a long time when I was writing the story. I think she was really nervous with the verbiage I was going to use, and which was probably pretty good because I was just a young writer. I was, it was struggling, and it was like I talked to you that night. The story ran the next day. Bruce didn't give me like 3 days to work on it. I was on a
At
deadline.
Bruce.
Yeah, damn Bruce Saylor. He was a slave driver there at the Standard. But I remember talking to your mom, and I just realized you had a really great ambassador in your mom. So that I can't. I would never want to have to fight your mom. I guess
Me either.
because she's yeah, she was really looking out for you, and I thought that was great. What did she do when they were what did your parents do when they were living in Butte?
So my dad was a physician. He was a pulmonary doc in town, and then added on sleep medicine. Probably in the early 2000s. So pulmonary and sleep medicine doctor. We started out there when we moved in 1990, and then he went there all the way through, I think it was roughly 2020. So he had about a
Yeah,
30-year career in Butte. My mom worked for the health department. She was also a teacher. She helped with out at the livestock yards. She was kind of the jack of all trades.
yeah, yeah. And you guys, horses are part of your life too, aren't they? Don't you ride horses?
Yeah, yeah. When we moved to Montana, and we finally got settled, I remember my dad saying that he wanted us to have the Wild West experience. And so, much to his dismay these days, we got involved with horses and all kinds of stuff. And as we grew, the horse obsession continued, and it's not the cheapest of hobbies, so
I can't
we
imagine.
blame
Oh,
him. He wanted to give us the Wild West experience, right? So
yeah. Well, and it's a
something that
lot of
stuck with
work.
us.
I
It
I know
is.
so.
It is.
Yeah, I know so when I went for a ride like somebody family, uh, or I was invited somebody's family, a friend's family to ride horses one time out by Helena, and I couldn't believe how much work we had to do to get the saddle on and all the brushing and then after, you got to take care of the horse after, it was
Yep.
you're working on the horse way more than you're riding on the horse.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's that thing that I
Yeah.
will always cherish. And, it was something I got to do with the family and got to compete in a little bit. Never really went very far with it, but it was just something enjoyed and, grew up through the 4-H system. So that was a big part of that. And we showed the horses. We had pigs for a while. We did all woodworking and sewing and, lots of the craft
Yeah.
side of it. So it was, that's a positive part of my life that I
Yeah.
really enjoyed.
But 4-H really keeps the kid busy, doesn't it? You're not a lot of video game playing for the 4-H kids, I can't imagine.
And it's grown into so much more than it was back when I did it. So it's really cool to see. And here in Indiana, whether it be FFA or 4-H or any of those things are huge around here, which is really exciting to see kids continue to be involved in that.
Yeah, that's pretty good stuff. And then so you went to Butte Central and so what year would you have graduated from Central? Like 2001, 2002,
2003.
2003. So there was a lot of good athletes. Of course, there's always a lot of good athletes at Butte Central. But even in that time, I mean, great softball teams, good basketball teams. There was a lot of good athletes at that school
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah, a lot of great athletes. The Maroon athletics was very strong. We didn't have the athletic center at that point in time,
Yeah.
but we'd compete at the Civic Center for basketball, and we had the women's volleyball, and our softball team was stellar as well. So a lot of good athletes have come through there.
Yeah. Did you ever play softball or any sports like that?
No, no, like I said, the
No.
swimming was my foray. I enjoy throwing a ball around, but
Yeah.
never anything serious.
Yeah. And then of course then by the time you start high school at Central, you're pretty well known as by the time you're a freshman in high school as a phenomenal swimmer already. So
Yeah.
you go from being the girl kids are asking about to suddenly being a girl who's I don't know necessarily in the spotlight would be the best way to put it, but your name was in the paper and on the news quite a bit back in
Yeah.
those days.
Yeah.
So that's quite the transition there for you.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun.
Yeah. And so college swimming, how many colleges did you have to choose from to go swimming for? Because that's a big school that you went to a pretty big program to go swimming.
Yeah. Really had my heart set on CSU from the beginning. Originally, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And I knew they had a top-notch vet school and then ended up going into human health science. So
Yeah.
went a different route, but I think there was a couple different colleges, but CSU is the one that I had approached about being able to walk on for the swim team. Amy Van Dyken swam there, so very
Yeah.
well-known name. Also swam there and from the first visit just kind of fell in love with the place, and so it was meant to be.
So you were a walk-on. Did you end up getting a scholarship?
No, I didn't. I was a
Never did, huh?
walk-on,
The whole time, huh?
and yeah, sorry, uh, walk on my freshman year, and then after my freshman year, Luna, stop.
Oh, has he got a
Sorry.
dog there? I can't even really hear.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So what was a walk on my freshman year, and then after my freshman year was Athens, the 2004 games, and that was way prior to any of this NIL stuff. We were
Yeah.
definitely not allowed to take any financials or any assistance or anything like that. So after the success of the Athens games, I had been approached about some different opportunities, and so thankfully had the conversation with my swim coaches at CSU about, hey, if what would this look like? Obviously, I'm not going to be a scholarship athlete because I cannot compete against, these high level D1 athletes. But at the same time, I'd still really like to continue to train here because I feel like it's the best place for me.
Hmm.
What would this look like? And so we talked about it for a while, and then they agreed that I would come off of the walk-on roster, but they would still allow me to compete or not compete to train.
Hmm.
with the team on a regular basis, stay with them for all of the training aspects of that, and then be able to take on the sponsorships. So that was a big help for me, as well as, being able to offset a few expenses. I'm not saying I had the Michael Phelps contracts or anything like that. But it helped offset some costs, especially in regards to training. And I kind of got the best of both worlds with still being able to not compete, to train
Yeah.
with the CSU Rams.
Yeah, and then compete in the three different Paralympic games.
Yeah,
A-
yeah.
and that those are such great it's such a great event, the Paralympic. And I never even heard of it until you did it. And then it's kind
Yeah.
of funny is my mom went to the winter Paralympic Games with a girl because my mom was a sign language interpreter, and she went with the
Okay.
girl. And it was more of a she skied. It wasn't like she was. It was more. It's kind of a different program, but she went to Japan. I'm guessing
Okay.
I can't remember what year that would have been. The year after. So it was. I don't know if it was. It might not have been Paralympic. It might have
Might
been
have been
part of.
Special
Might have been more
Olympics.
Special Olympics. I think she called. Yeah, I think it might have been Special, which is way bigger difference. But obviously, but my mom got to do that was really cool that she got to go over to do that. So yeah, I guess I feel like a clown here comparing it. I didn't mean to
No,
compare
I
those two,
mean,
but I remember she went. It was the same kind of deal though, but that was a year later. Is that how the Paralympics is? Is it a year later? Or is it the same year
no,
right
it's
after?
about 2 weeks after the
Yeah,
closing
because
of
I think she went a
the
year
Olympic
later.
Games. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was probably the Special Olympics.
Yeah, I should have asked her a little bit more about that. I didn't know a whole lot of what's going on. She'd call me from Japan every day. Which was pretty
Nice.
cool. So that goes the Olympics, and then like as soon as the 2 weeks the Olympics are over, the Paralympics kind
Yeah,
of begin. Is that how it
basically,
goes?
yeah, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, that's awesome though that you get that it does that, and it highlights some great athletes. And it's just a good deal, and it seems like people pay attention to that more now than they did, you know, last century. I could say.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of it is just having it visible, having it in the mainstream media, having it, on NBC, having it where people can actually see it. How many sports do we have here in the US that just aren't even featured on,
Yeah,
regular TV? Not everybody gets the prime time slots. And so now we're starting to see where Paralympics is being, not quite equally, but getting there, represented in a lot of the advertisements when it comes into the games. It is a main feature of the LA 28 games coming up, and
yeah,
and instead of when we're looking at the nomenclature for it, LA is hosting the next games, and it is the Olympic and the Paralympic Games, but it's, hey, LA is hosting the next games, which
yeah,
is great, and it's Team USA. It's not, oh, we're just focusing on Olympic, or we're just focusing on Paralympic. It's all athletes, are competing for, the ultimate prize, the gold medal, and
yeah,
representing your country. So we are starting to see that. And with that, it's opening conversations. It's changing the way we view disabilities, because you're seeing what can be accomplished. It's also important to realize that not every athlete, just like on the Olympic side, not every athlete is going to be Michael Phelps or Usain Bolt or Katie
yeah,
Ledecky or any of those athletes. At the same time, on the Paralympic side, there's elite level athletes that, yes, they have a disability, but they're still elite level athletes. And so not everybody, is going to be on that level either. And so I think recognizing that ability of people, I always say it for at the Olympics or even the Paralympics, they need that, the average Joe lane 10 or
yeah,
whatever, so that you can say, oh yeah, because I mean, I'm guilty of it. I'm like, I could swim that, or I could run that. No way.
yeah,
Um, and so to, put it into perspective, but it also helps motivate and excite people. We see so many increases in sports and activity and health, following the games, because people say, wow, like maybe I could do that, or maybe I could get to that level, or maybe I could strive for that. And it's really exciting to just see how that fire lights, within people. And when you can see somebody in a wheelchair competing, when you can see an amputee running 100-meter sprint in, what was it, like 10.02 seconds? I
yeah,
mean, ridiculously fast. When you can see that, then it opens the conversation and allows for people to say, hey, oh, I'm an amputee. I wonder what, maybe if I started training, I could do that. And so it's more about what can we do? Where can we go? as opposed to what we don't have.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's what I love about that too. Now it's growing together,
Yeah,
the Olympics and the Paralympics
absolutely.
like that. So they're both of course great to watch. I love watching the Olympics just because I see a sport that I'd never really otherwise watch. You don't flipping through the channels. You don't see swimming. You don't see swimming on the channel. You don't see curling on, unless it's the Olympics. The Winter Olympics. So I love
Yeah.
seeing those games and seeing different things. And of course, every 4 years the Butte Curling Club gets a bunch of new members. People think they can curl, because they watch it and then they realize they can't even stand up on the ice, let alone run down and sweep like they
Yeah.
do. But yeah,
Yeah.
but it's pretty cool, and it puts a lot different athletes in the spotlight, and you were in the spotlight too because you were in the ESPYs.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was an experience, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Now you won twice. You won an ESPY award for
Yeah, I
top female
wanted,
athlete.
yep, 2005 and 2009.
Yeah. So when you came for the Butte Sports Hall of Fame last year, you told the story about was it your dad was geeking out when he saw Peyton Manning?
Yeah. Yep, that was in 2005.
Yeah. So you get to rub elbows with some pretty famous people, pretty famous athletes going to the
Yeah.
ESPYs. That's pretty cool that was not only included in the ESPYs, but that you got to go there and then you win the big award. That's
Yeah. No, it
pretty
was cool.
amazing.
Actually, they're right up there.
I was at the ESPYs right there.
Yeah, the two on either side there. But yeah, it was a great experience. It's, weird to see the people that you look at and whether it be watch on TV or that you've grown up idolizing and then you see them in person and you're going, "Oh wow. They are much bigger in real life." Or hey, they look a little bit different than what they do on TV, but it's really cool just to see the power and the prowess that, they carry, as well. So it was fun, but I was definitely, in awe as well.
Yeah, I mean, did you handle it better than your dad though? Because your dad didn't handle the starstruck moment as well as you did he?
I think we each had our moments. I remember Serena Williams was standing next to me and I was going,
Wow.
and it's just, incredible to see the athletes and um just see them in person and say, wow, they really do they are real.
Yeah. And then after so when was your last year competing in swimming?
My last year was in 2010.
Yeah.
So I went to Beijing and then came home and kind of took a year or so figuring out what was the next big
Yeah.
thing. And then it was kind of one of those where I said, I think I'm ready to be done. And so at that point in time, World Championships were the year between the game or the middle year in between the games. So I knew I didn't want to just kind of fade out, but I wanted to go out with one last bang. So
Yeah.
World Championships was, I believe, that summer of 2010.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was grateful that I qualified there so that I had the opportunity to go there. And it was fun to have one last meet.
And you knew it was going to be your last meet.
Oh, yes.
It wasn't you didn't do it and then decide. So did that.
No, I knew going into it that it was my last one. I'd let my coaches know ahead of time but decided to keep it quiet. I think there was one friend on the team that knew and I wanted, I didn't want anything to impact them. I wanted them to have their meet
Yeah.
and compete and stuff. And so then as the meet was rounding out, I think I competed all the way through the last day and it was like the night before my last race. Um, and we were having a team meeting and one of my friends let it slip that this would be my last race the next day. And so it was cue the tears, cue the emotions, all of that of everything
Yeah.
culminating. But at the same time, it was really, really cool to just be there. My family was there, and just kind of end it all. And I have no regrets about that. Never looked back, never said, oh, I wish I had swum one more event or one more race or anything like that. It was more, I kind of felt like I had accomplished everything that I could at that time. And it was, we had a great roster of female athletes, that were already beating me and a few more that were about to start beating me. And so the depth within the team was really strong, and so it was time for me to step out of their way. And, not that I was in their way, but they were
Yeah.
coming for me anyways, but it was time for me to step aside.
Well, going out on your own terms is something a lot of athletes don't get to do. I mean, that's probably a pretty rewarding way to do it because a lot of times I think there's a line in the movie Moneyball where it says everyone's told someday that they can no longer play. It's just different age when they do, depends on sometimes you're 12 when you're told you're not going to be able to play anymore. Sometimes you're 40, but to be able to make that decision on your own and go on your own terms had to be a pretty rewarding way to finish things.
It really did. I think back to those times, and I'm very grateful that it was my decision. It wasn't
Yeah.
anybody else's. It wasn't influenced by anything. It was my decision to say, you know what, I think I've done everything that I can do here. I think I've accomplished what I can accomplish, and it's time for the next group to take it, continue. And so for
Yeah.
that, I'm very grateful. I was in good health. I was didn't have any injuries or illnesses that forced me out or anything like that. So the fact that it was able to be my decision was a huge win.
Yeah. And then but you didn't go too far away from the Olympics or swimming after that because did you just immediately transition into your career with the Olympics after that?
No, it was a year, a little over a year later, I think. I actually moved back to Butte for that year.
Oh, I
Said,
didn't know
okay,
that.
what am I gonna do? What's the next thing? Um, and kind of took that year to say, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah.
And so worked at my dad's office for a bit, took some courses up at Tech to just see like where my interests were. And then ultimately I got a call saying, hey, there's a position, would you consider it? And went through the interview process and such, and then got hired on. So I was with the Olympic and Paralympic Committee for a little over 13 years.
Yeah. What did you do? What was your job?
I started out as a coordinator of, what was it? Coordinator for classification, which is the process by which all athletes in the Paralympic world are evaluated and put in similar groups. And then from there, moved into some talent development roles. So looking at finding the next great athletes and putting them into pipelines and such. Um, and then from there, actually worked with the Paralympic cycling team and moved way too much bike equipment. But at the same time, had a lot of fun with them, learned a lot, when you're put into a world that you don't understand and you don't know, and you have to learn a whole new system of sport, but also how the athletes care for themselves, the programmatics of it, and strategy behind things was really exciting. And I had some great people that I worked with that really helped teach me and mentor me into working with our national team athletes, sending them around the world, all the things. And then I was with them for about 4 years, and then a position came up in swimming. So said, I really know a little bit more about swimming.
And those jobs took you around the world as well.
Yeah,
Because it
yeah.
was about a year and a half ago or so when I finally got a hold of you to tell you were being elected you were elected to Butte Sports Hall of Fame. You were, where is it, Switzerland? Is that where you were? Somewhere.
Oh, maybe, who
Yeah,
knows?
you were somewhere where I called you. I felt really bad because it wasn't that late here, but it was pretty late there. And I didn't know that's where you were.
It's the name of the game. Name of the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah, but so you had that's a pretty cool thing too, though. I mean, I don't know, of course, you were over there, you weren't just sightseeing and doing
No.
everything, but you're working your butt off all the time. But it's still pretty cool, even if you're working, it's pretty cool to look out the window in your car ride and see all those different places because you've pretty much been everywhere in the world.
Yeah, I've been a lot of great places. I joke with my family that, someday I would like to go back and see all the places I competed at,
Yeah, yeah,
because
because you're probably not sightseeing when you're
so much of
competing.
the
Yeah,
time you're not sightseeing, and outside of knowing that you're in a different country, you don't really know that you're in a different country just because you're so wrapped up in the competition. And,
yeah,
a lot of that extended to even the working side of it. You don't realize how much work goes into, these events and projects and planning and such until you're on that side. I
Yeah.
remember asking when I first transitioned over to the work side and saying, when do we get naps? And they just laughed. And they kind of said, you don't, but good luck. And so really gave me a big respect for how much work goes into the execution in order so that the athletes can perform at their best. And so that was fun. But, there's a lot of, late nights going to see whatever was in town, get a quick picture, and then you're back at it because during the day it was all about competing and stuff. So there's a lot of times where the pictures were very few and far between. But at the same time, you get to have a great croissant or, some great pasta in Italy or something somewhere that just kind of
Yeah.
said, oh, wow, this isn't like home.
Yeah. Yeah. Even in Athens, did you get a chance to see any of the sites, like all the old ruins and all that stuff?
I had one day at the very end, right before I left. And
Yeah.
so we went and toured as, much stuff as possible. It was kind of
Yeah.
like
You're trying to see Athens in
the
a day
National
is, yeah.
Lampoon's like, look, kids, Big Ben. Take the picture and, look, kids, the Acropolis.
Yeah.
Took the picture and continued on. And, that's what I swear most of my trips over there were. So now I've been trying to add a few places that I actually want to go and spend time and get to see and, feel the culture a little bit more than what I did way back
Yeah.
when.
Yeah, that's amazing that you accomplished that. Yeah, and that's the thing is you're so wrapped up as an athlete, you probably don't even realize how cool of a places you are. I see that with Will Silk.
Yeah.
Will Silk, the speed skater from Butte, he's living that now, and he kind of appreciates the cool places, but I think he appreciates the cool arenas where he's skating. He's like,
Yeah.
this city is because of that, but he's not talking about the sites that everyone else is talking about when they're talking about going
Right.
overseas to speed skate, so it's a different world when you're an athlete.
Yes. Yes, very much so.
Yeah. And so then I mentioned I called you to tell you that we're going into the Butte Sports Hall of Fame, and I was so excited to see you come back to Butte for that was pretty cool. What was that like being elected to that shrine with so many great
Yeah,
athletes?
every recognition and award it is truly special, and especially when it's your hometown where, that's where you grew up, that's where you established, what my career would it actually take off or not? It's the coaches that I had that helped build and create that. So to be recognized amongst so many other legends from Butte, I know we're a small town. I know that, we're not saying we've got millions of people and millions of athletes coming through, but it really makes it that much more special because you feel a connection
Yeah.
there. You feel like you were part of something, right? And it was an incredible honor to be recognized there in Butte for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I think I told everybody how the first time I interviewed you compared to the second time I interviewed you was so much different because I think the number one answer you gave me when I asked you questions the first time was and which was pretty funny because I can't think of any eighth grade boy or girl who would be a good interviewer. There's very few and far between. But to me, it always made me remember it. And then, of course, the phone would ring at the Montana Standard, and Marie Cook would be calling, telling us about what you did then. So she made sure that we always knew what you were doing, and made damn sure that we reported on what you were doing over those years because we didn't want to mess with Marie.
Oh, Maria's the best.
Yeah,
Absolute
such a
best.
great lady.
Yes.
Yeah, and she
Yes.
she cared so much about the sport and the kids, and it was just great. And I
Yeah,
think
she really cared and really opened my eyes, but to the sport without no pressure whatsoever. It was more so, hey, let's start working through this and let's see if you like this and such. And she just had such a warm presence. But also motivating too. She could get on you. Don't let
yeah,
that,
It's
sweet personality fool you. She could definitely get on you, but just phenomenal, phenomenal woman.
yeah, and when you came back, did you get to stay in Butte for very long, or was it just were you just in on Friday and out on Monday kind of the deal?
No, I think I was there for a week or so.
Yeah.
The family tries to get together in Butte around, or usually around the 4th of July or thereabouts in July. And so it worked out that the family was, most of the family was there. My sister, and her partner weren't able to be there for that portion, but, it's always, that's home.
Yeah.
And that's where I love to be. So we try and spend as much time as we can. So I think we were there a little over a week at that time, which was
Yeah.
really nice.
Is there any family that still lives in Butte or they just come back?
We still have our property there, so my
Yeah.
dad goes back and forth. But sadly, no.
So you still got the place to come back to. Is out by Ramsey, I assume, or somewhere out in that area.
Closer to south past Silver Bow.
Yeah. With it. And is there horses out there still now, or did anybody take over?
No,
It's just
they're all with my mom,
oh,
or mom and dad over in Washington area.
oh yeah, they have them. So is there one of the horses that's still yours that you got to go back and ride from time to time?
Yeah, I still have a horse. She's primarily my mom's now.
Yeah.
But so I when I'm home I get to ride her, but if not, my mom's been riding her and taking her on, which is great, and she's really enjoyed her.
What did you get to name her?
Her barn or her registered name is Too Lazy to Be Crazy, which always cracked me up. But I call her V.
I would bet on a horse named Too Lazy to Be Crazy. Or too crazy to, is too crazy to be lazy or too lazy to be crazy?
Too lazy to be crazy,
Yeah,
but
too
she could be
lazy.
pretty crazy.
I would still bet on that. It'd be a long shot probably, but I would
Yeah.
that's how I've never actually placed a bet on a horse race, but I would always I cheer for the one with the craziest name. Yeah,
Perfect. Perfect.
that's
Sounds
awesome.
about how I do my best as well.
Yeah. So is it your dog out there with you? Is it just you and your
Yep.
dog?
Yep, just me and the dog.
What kind of dog do you have?
So I have a corgi. Her name is Luna. She's 8. We've been together for a long time, and she's full of piss and vinegar.
Yeah. Does she like it out there in at Purdue?
Yeah, I think she's liking it. She has a nice backyard here. The summer heat was neither of ours favorite.
Yeah.
But no, we're getting along. We've gone on lots of hikes, lots of water around. So loves to go swimming. I like to go paddleboarding.
Uh,
Um,
had
so
enough
yeah,
swimming.
so she seems to be faring pretty well.
That's awesome. There's nothing better than a dog. I have to put several barriers outside my office slash bedroom here to keep my little Yelp dog going because I get a little Shih Tzu Lhasa Apsos who would be barking the whole
Oh,
time. If
nice,
I could never have,
nice.
I can never have any, I can never record a podcast in person at my house. I have to go like the Metal Sports Bar, to Casey, places like that to record them when I meet people because Boogie would not let me have any guests over.
Well, if you've heard, she's actually being pretty good, but
Oh, that's good. So, well, congratulations on the new job. It seems like things are going well for you over there.
yeah, yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's not what I was doing before, but it's been a growth opportunity, and I get to work with some pretty amazing people, and just I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, and it's just that's pretty brave to take a new challenge like that and just go move, several states away. We probably
Yeah, yeah.
didn't know anybody.
I don't recommend moving across the country in January. That was not the best time. However, when opportunity presents, you gotta, if you can,
Yeah,
jump. And I told myself, why not take the opportunity? And you never know what life is gonna throw you, right? Someday I'd love to be back in Montana. That's the ultimate goal, and would love to get back and try and get back as much as I can. But also gotta, you know, do what I can and take new challenges and new opportunities when they present and see where life takes you.
yeah. And now it takes you to being a Boilermakers fan there. And
Yep.
how's the
Yep.
football? How's the football team doing? I didn't. I don't think they're that tough this year, are they? They're kind of struggling.
No, it's not been our strong. We're better than last year, but
Yeah, it's a
next year
basketball school
we'll be
though.
good.
It is a basketball school, and things look definitely good for the basketball program.
Yes,
Again,
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I imagine you're probably pretty excited, looking forward to that. And the game's on right behind you. I don't know if anyone could see
Yeah.
the games is going to be on there. Is it a home game or are they on the road tonight?
No, it's a home game tonight,
And
so
you're not there yet. So
no, but I didn't get to go tonight. But that's okay. I can watch here and I'll be cheering mom from home.
yeah. All right. Well, Erin, again, congratulations on the new job and what a great career that you had as a swimmer and beyond swimming. You know, it's and I was so happy to see you got elected into the Hall of Fame and it was such a slam dunk vote for you to get in there. There was I can't remember exactly what the vote was. You need 9 votes of the 12 and you had at least 11. You may have gotten all 12 votes of it. It was pretty awesome to see you went in so easy on your first time. So you're one of the younger,
That's
one of the younger members, to go into the Hall of Fame. And that was a great class of Hall of Famers
it
because
was
you went in, Martha Apostle Lawner went in, obviously different generations,
huge though.
yeah,
Huge.
but how great was it to share the stage with her because she broke ground for women. She was the first female to let her in a sport at Butte High, and that did not come without people not liking her. I mean, the boys didn't necessarily like all that, so it was pretty
Yeah,
cool to be with her.
it was an incredible evening. And that's why I say, being recognized amongst legends, people that really broke the ground for people like me to come years later and have an opportunity to compete and really broke down the barriers and fought the fight. And we know it wasn't easy back when she did it.
Yeah,
But just the tenacity of, a young woman that said, I'm going to compete and I'm going to do this. And, women, man, when they get something in their minds, they go hard.
yeah,
But it was just so impressive and such an honor for her as well.
yeah. It was a great class. It was a long night.
Yep.
Long and hot. 'Cause Coach Schulte was the last person to go in. I think, and he said he wanted to change his name so he could go first. But uh, it was a long night. We had a big group. We got to get better at speeding up the ceremonies. But I can't think of anything I would cut out of it because it was just all together the great teams, the great individuals, and it was great seeing you for the first time in decades, you know, uh, in person because your career quickly took you out of the mining city. So
Yeah.
it was great
Yeah.
to see you come back for that, and it was great to see how happy you were to be part of that because that kind of gives it. When you see someone who's got 2 SB awards on her shelf, really appreciating the Butte Sports Hall of Fame, it kind of makes everybody who was part of the process of selecting, and really appreciate what they do more, because it gave them a little more credibility because, you know, a lot of places, if we tried to induct Ryan Leaf into the Montana Hall of Fame, they actually did try to induct Ryan Leaf in the Montana Football Hall of Fame. He told him to go to hell. He's not coming back. So there's a lot of big time athletes might not want to go back and recognize their hometown, but it was pretty cool to see you come back and do that.
I have a lot of love for Butte and the people and the community and everything, and it'll always be home for me. So, and it's, like I said, it helped form me, it helped create me, it helped build me, and made me Butte tough. So, very grateful for it, and it really was an honor.
Well, Erin, I appreciate your time. I don't want to take any more time away from that Purdue game. Make sure you get watch that and cheer on the Boilermakers. But
Will
thanks for your
do.
time.
Yeah, great to talk with you, Bill.
Jewelry Design Center. We want to be your jeweler for life.